For centuries, Japan had been a small country cut off from the outside world. She resisted every Western attempt to colonize her. The people believed their emperor was descended from the gods. Behind the ceremony of court life were the politicians and generals, ruling in the name of the emperor. They believed that to survive in the modern world, Japan must catch up with the powerful industrialized nations of the West. By the 1920s, Emperor Hirohito rode at the head of a rapidly advancing nation. People generally thought politicians corrupt, but believed soldiers patriotic, straightforward and loyal. The army had already won lands abroad and ownership of the railway network in Manchuria. Japan's neighbour China had been under the thumb of the Western powers for years, and to protect their interests in China they'd built strong military and naval bases in the Pacific area. America built a base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Great Britain had bases at Hong Kong and Singapore. Why shouldn't Japan do the same? In 1922, Japan signed a naval treaty in Washington. The treaty meant the Japanese Navy could build 3 warships for every 5 British and 5 American. The admirals of the Japanese Navy came to resent this treaty, which they thought was unfair to Japan. World slump in the 30s hit Japan hard. The markets of the West were closing against Japanese goods, but Japan needed her exports to pay for her supplies. Each year there were more mouths to be fed. The Japanese people began to fear starvation. The voice of the army was heard in Japan. "We are like a great crowd," it said, "packed into a small and narrow room. We must have an empire in Asia as an outlet for our people's energies." Politicians closed their ears, but the masses listened to the army leaders. In September 1931, Japanese forces invaded Manchuria. Japan claimed that the Chinese had damaged the railway there, which belonged to Japan. China and America protested to the government in Tokyo, but it couldn't control the army. America said it wanted China's door to be open to the trade of all nations. Japan wanted China's door shut to all nations but herself. This was bound to lead to a collision with the West sooner or later. By March 1932, Manchuria was in Japanese hands. They called it Manchukuo and set up a puppet emperor, the last of the Manchu family, Henry Puyi. At first, China could do little but appeal to the League of Nations. The League did little but protest to Japan.